Join us in honoring warriors at woundedwarriorproject.org/America.
You're listening to WVGM AM and FM Lynchburg, now powered by ESPN Radio and streaming on the VTRN Sports app.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, newer, older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials for routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg. And pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At US Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With US Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
US Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With US Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose US Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. US Med. Better service, better care. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. That's 800-803-3771.
It's always great to save money, and no better place to save money than InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now for gift cards to Buttercup and Friends, Oliver's on Rivermont, the Caribbean Jerk Pod, and much more. Insane Radio Deals also has great experiences like Rise Up Climbing. Insane Radio Deal. So great, they make you go insane. InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now before they run out. That is InsaneRadioDeals.com.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So as a dad of 2 7-year-old boys, I am often on the listen and look, not just for personal growth steps that I can take, but what other people who are in sports, especially coaches, have to say about coaching. Because parenting and coaching are not the same, but there is a level of similarity between the two. And there's also a level of similarity between what you get out of coaches that have had sustained success and then other people that are not. And it's worth bringing up because Tom Izzo is the one who has gotten the headlines, but he's not the only one. There's a March Madness story because you may have noticed this from coaches who have spoken out about when people criticize them for hard coaching. Dan Hurley, UConn, at times it seems like it's a little bit over the top, yes. But he's not the only one who does that. And it gets results. And at the end of the day, people still go to his program. And it's not just for
dollar bills, y'all.
As Kenny Powers will remind us. It's also because he does show he can win. People still want to be successful. I know there's a lot of talk about Gen Z, millennials, anybody who's like 40 and under, I'm 40, that they don't want to be coached hard. I think that's trash. I think if anything, the people that are protective of them don't understand that that's the reality for success. So Tom Izzo had this to say about people that are criticizing him for hard coaching.
If you're that dumb, bad word, but the truth, that you think any coach in America would be yelling at a guy because he did it wrong once or twice or 5 times or 10 times, you have no idea what coaching's all about. Because every day in practice, he's probably hearing the same thing. I've mellowed some because you have to mellow with the times, you know?
You do. You have to mellow. This is not the let's go out and grab a stick and beat your child for disobeying you world. We have, in most cases at least, progressed beyond that. But like, speaking of progressive, and this is not political here, but there is this theory out there of progressive parenting. I get inundated with it all the time. It drives me up the wall. And you can tell me I'm wrong at fastlaneedlane@gmail.com or fastlaneedlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I welcome it. I get it. How you say things does matter. This is not back in the day, Bob Knight, where, you never really praised anybody. You beat people up. You choked people. You threw chairs. You acted like an imbecile. And you made it so hard to gain any level of approval that people clung for it. Like this day, we've progressed. If that's how you operate, we're just going to give up and realize that ain't happening. We're not going to get it. So that strategy doesn't work. But how you say things does matter in both ways.
It's so misunderstood sometimes too, I mean, everybody says stuff differently. I mean, I had a football coach that couldn't say hello without swearing. Didn't mean he was mad at me. It was just that he was, just part of his language. I'm Italian, I speak with my hands and sometimes my voice.
So my wife is Italian-Irish. All the emotions come out. I'm stubborn myself and competitive, so our house is very interesting. But there is a level of, like, we have kids that are testing boundaries in our house. They're 7 years old. They get sent to their room at times. I'm the more stern one. And this may be I'm the dad, they're the sons. Like, if they were daughters, I'd probably handle it differently. My wife raised a daughter. She's probably more firm on her daughter than she is on us, on her sons. And that's totally understandable. Like, it's different. But there's a level of people that see that and view it as a bad thing. I am all for positive reinforcement to an extent. But when you get out, if you want to be successful in anything in life, sports, coaching, it's about preparing you for life. And there's an element that I completely agree with from Tom Izzo, who elaborated in particular the message to people who hate the harsh critiquing because, and I believe this, a lot of times they just don't get it.
I just want to know what this concept is that you all have or anybody has, that a kid can do the same thing wrong 50 times and you're supposed to say, geez, Johnny, hey, Mark, do a better job on the mic next time, huh? You just screwed up 15 times.
In a row, coach.
Yeah, I know. I'd yank you for that, but I don't understand that concept, It never used to be the way. And now we're supposed to just hug and kiss everybody. You know what? Do your job right. Go to class and you won't hear about not going to class. Cut out. You won't hear about not cutting out.
See, that's the standard when you get out of the protective bubble of helicopter, snowflake, snowplow syndrome parenting. The boss in any walk of life, the people for whom you work, even if you own your business and company, you have to answer to the bank, Farmers Bank of Appomattox. If you need some assistance, they are very helpful. You have to answer for insurance companies. You have to answer to whomever you must pay bills. We all have to deal with that in life. It's different. The objective of parenting is not just to nurture your kids. There is some of that is necessary. Again, this is not Bob Knight back in the day where you don't believe in any of it. But Tom Izzo is on to something. People that don't understand that there needs to be a balance, which means it can't just be everybody sing Kumbaya and hold hands and it's all going to be fine. It's an issue. Jay Billis brought this up when he was on the Rich Eisen show, noon to 3, VTR and Sports app on Monday. He was talking about UConn. And part of it is when you put your kids into situations as a coach, but I think in life as well, where they're challenged, it makes them better. It doesn't just need to be everything's okay. If they're not grasping it the first, second, or third time, sometimes you have to wait for it, raise your voice, get more stern. We had one of our kids who was being disrespectful to mom at the dinner table the other night. We tried to ask nicely enough, and eventually, whoop, go to your room. And then on the way up, we're throwing a temper tantrum. So the 5-minute trip becomes 10 minutes, 10 becomes 15. Eventually, you're just in the room the rest of the night. We need to rethink this. And you lost screen time through the next morning. We're not sending you to your room and letting you bail out with screen time. We're thinking about this. And look, I was the same way as a kid, so it's not like I'm sitting there calling my kids out. I did the exact same thing. I am eternally grateful that my dad was stern when I had those temper tantrums and did not cave in. Oh, I hated it back in the day, but I love it now because it made me a better person and putting me to a level of standard for behavior and decor and what's expected when you get out. Because it does translate parenting to what you do in sports and what you do in life. The sports part, Jay Billis, UConn, their comeback from 19 down against Duke. Sorry to reference that, TJ, resident Duke fan, but we're bringing it up here. And you heard it Sunday on the VTRN Sports app, your home for great play-by-play, including, by the way, March Madness Final Four, women's and men's, which Clark Kellogg is going to preview with us 5:40 today here in the Fast Lane. But part about UConn handled all that well is not because Dan Hurley just puts his arm around them, everybody holds hands and sings Kumbaya. They're stressors. Where the old adage, make it harder in practice so you're not afraid when game scenarios arise.
I do believe there's something to the idea of championship DNA. I certainly think Duke has it, but UConn really has it. And every day in practice under Danny Hurley, they're under stress. And so the games, I guarantee you this, the players think the games are easier to practice. And they're put in those situations. They have experienced players.
They have experienced players. They're used to it. They've been stressed in practice. That's Jay Billis on the Rich Eisen Show. Monday, you can hear the show regularly, VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM, noon to 3. That's part of it. And parenting goes along with that. You're creating an environment for your kids. Sure, there's a safety of handling things, and home can be a safe spot. But home can also be a spot where it's preparing you for what you get when you get out of the home. And it's not always comforting. And there were times where I resented my own parents for that. But it made me better and prepared me for the real world. And it's not just say it nicely, be nice. You try to say it nicely, but sometimes you have to go quick and sternly with your kids. I'm dealing with that now. I was a little too soft on them over the weekend. They kept going up, down on the windowsill on my car. Now I'm looking at over $400 in repairs. I took it in for the estimate today. They got to get the parts, and I'm going to have to go back to get that done in the next week. Thankfully, they were able to at least get the window up so that the rain, which came earlier today, and more of it may come over the weekend, is not going to get inside my car. So we dodged that one. But, it could have been averted if I had not done the progressive parenting thing of say it softly. That's kind of the straw that broke my back on this. But then I heard it from Tom Izzo, and I'm not alone. And then you hear other people like this. And it's not just men. I don't think every woman is soft on their child. But I do think there's a perception out there that approach is what you have to have. Look, women can be stern as leaders as well. Not always, but they can be. And maybe, again, it's a gender-to-gender thing. Because I look at women's basketball and the amount of leaders that are in that sport. And there are a lot of great examples of it. Dawn Staley had this to say. It's caught a lot of attention over the last couple of days. But part of what you do as a coach, love, is allowing your child to fail and not just bailing them out.
I'm very different than your parents because your parents don't want you to fail and they don't want you to be uncomfortable. They do everything in their power to make sure you don't feel the pain that they felt growing up. And it's probably the biggest mistake because they're going to fail. I tell them I love you enough to allow you to fail. I do. I love you enough to allow you to hurt. I love you enough for you to have a bad game or bad month or even a bad season. Because if you're trying to get to the next level, you're going to have those days. And if you can't operate in that space, then you're not going to be at that next level. And that's not just basketball. That's just anything.
So there's Dawn Staley saying it. Like, and I get it. Like, there's some people out there that may hear what we're saying in the fast lane, and you can agree or disagree. FastLaneEdLane@gmail.com or FastLaneEdLane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or podcast reviews, hopefully 5 stars. But Dawn Staley's on this. Like, we referenced Tom Izzo. Jay Billis talking about Dan Hurley at UConn and men's basketball programs that are out there. This isn't just that. There's successful women that have this as well. Dawn Staley, by the way, elaborated. This is one that's gone viral from over the weekend, but a lot of this is allowing people to work through problems, which means putting them in adverse structural situations and sometimes raising the temperature on how to handle it.
When you allow your children to grow up, it is a direct reflection of your parenting. Direct. Like if you hover over them all the time and they can't work through problems, they're going to have some issues, but you got to let them work through problems because they're working through the things that you've instilled in them. And
you instill in them. They work through problems. You don't hover over them all the time. Like, it's a misnomer that we have out there. And that involves hard coaching. I mean, look, there's so many examples of this that are out there. And female leaders, they exist in this category. Like, I'm not just cherry picking certain ones. Kara Lawson's the best example of it. And most people have heard this before, but if you haven't, handle hard better. She's got like a 2-minute speech on it, but there are a couple of key takeaways. One of them is what she's saying, so we don't take it out of context.
We wait for stuff to get easier. It will never get easier. What happens is you handle hard better. That's what happens. Most people think that it's going to get easier. Life is going to get easier. Basketball is going to get easier. School's going to get easier. It never gets easier. What happens is you become someone that handles hard stuff better.
Another female leader, Kara Lawson, Duke Lady Blue Devils. They lost in the Elite Eight this past weekend. By the way, you'll hear South Carolina's Dawn Staley against UConn, and then UCLA and Texas after that. Friday, VTR and Sports App, your home for the women's Final Four as well as the men's, and we'll have the championship games Sunday, women's, Monday, men's. But Kara Lawson, not quite there, but still good enough to get to the Elite Eight. That's the speech. It's the most infamous one she's had in a really positive way. And there are 2 takeaways from her comments on that. And she elaborated on it. One of them is this often requires, for a lot of people out there, a mental shift because parents don't do a good enough job of putting kids in a spot. It doesn't mean everything has to be difficult. It doesn't mean you always have to raise your voice. But you have to challenge your kids. You have to be okay at times going that route. And the parents that don't, it requires, you're not doing your kids any favor. Kara Lawson mentioned it, and she's not the only one. We played the Tom Izzo bite as well. We played the Jay Billis one on Dan Hurley. It's a mental shift that you're eventually going to have to hit when you hit the real world.
So that's a mental shift that has to occur in each of your brains. It has to. Because if you go around waiting for stuff to get easier in life, it's never going to happen. And then what happens? Oh, it's so hard. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I don't know when is it going to be easy for me? Oh, it's easy for other people. It's not. It's hard.
Kara Lawson, leader, female, Duke Blue Devils, Lady Blue Devils, basketball coach. Because again, a lot of this with parenting, and it struck a nerve with me because I've heard so much about progressive parenting. Never raise your voice at your kids. Always be calm. There's times for that. But there are times where you have to do that for their well-being, not just the whole, they might run out in traffic. They keep doing the window up, down. Well, if I don't snap at them quickly, they're going to cause the fuse to bust, and I'm going to be out $450 like I am this past weekend. Mistake on dad. Should have raised it. There are other times where you're going to get the same treatment from a boss or a coach, where the expectation is there. They were forgiving a couple of times, but eventually you just got to figure it out. Because ultimately, the objective is parenting and coaching, it's preparing you for life.
The second we see you handling stuff, handling hard better, what are we going to do? We're going to make it harder. We're going to make it harder. Because we're preparing for you for when you leave here. Not just basketball and life.
And by the way, here's the other thing. It's not just Kara Lawson whom we played. Not Dawn Staley, who we played a moment ago. Tom Izzo, male leader of men's teams. And obviously, Jay Billis, who was part of Coach K's program, talked about Hurley and UConn with the stressors and how that enabled them to come back, UConn against Duke, this past Sunday in the Elite Eight. Here's another one. Pat Summitt, arguably the torchbearer for women's basketball. I know Gino Auriemma will probably go down when he's done as the most successful women's basketball coach ever. But the trailblazer of building a dynasty in women's basketball is Pat Summitt. Like the court at Thompson Bowling Arena is, I think it's Food City Court and Food City Arena, but it's also known as the Summit because of Pat Summitt. Here was her comment her son, Tyler, I know he's had his challenges. I think he had an affair and cost him the Tennessee job a few years ago. But Pat Summitt, as a leader and a coach, here is what went through her mind. I wish this would go through every parent's mind of what it was like when her son was cut from the basketball team and her initial reaction and then her thought better of it.
I walk in the room and I said, Tyler, what's wrong with you? And he goes, I got cut. Well, my first thought is, what coach in East Tennessee would cut my son? I mean, think about it. You know, put him at the end of the bench, but give him a uniform. And then I guess the coach came out in me, and I looked at Tyler and I said, he had a basketball under each arm. He was crying so hard. And I said, Tyler, if you wear out both those basketballs, I promise you, I guarantee you will make the team next year. Do you hear me? And he goes, yes, ma'am. And I said, well, then let's get it done. And he goes, Mom, will you help me? I said, son, I will help you, but I will not start your engine. You must start your engine every day. Do you understand that? He goes, yes, ma'am. A defining moment in his life. It changed him. It changed his focus. It changed his work ethic, his drive. And I haven't had to motivate him since then. Not at all. It's a pretty incredible story. But, you know, as I look back and I tell people about it, they're like, well, it's not that easy, is it? And I said, it is if you're driven to be successful. And I've always been driven to be successful. I hate to lose.
So as a parent, do you want your kid's life to be soft, simple, comforting? Or do you want it to be successful? Do you want to be successful with them? Like, I know I feel like I'm rallying people around here. I'm just a parent of 2 7-year-olds. But it's what I encounter regularly with mine. Maybe I'm off base. Please let me know. FastlaneEdlane@gmail.com or FastlaneEdlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It doesn't mean being hard all the time. If they ask for your support, absolutely give it to them. The support. But it also means give them the initial steps they need. Be willing to make them take the initiative. Put them in a spot where they have to handle stressors so that when they get out of your bubble, they're able to handle the real world, which is stressors without the protection of mom and dad. You don't always have to be harsh, but there are times where you have to. There's times where you have to blend that in there, and you can't go all new school progressive parenting of never criticizing, never ever doing any of that. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, John Manson of CFRed.com, we're going to effort to connect with him before Clark Kellogg, who will, by the way, Clark is going to weigh in. We'll ask him about this. He raised 3 Division I athletes, 2 sons in basketball, a daughter in volleyball. What does he think of this? We'll get his perspective later in the Fast Lane. But John Manson from CFRed.com will talk Liberty Flames, spring football, and basketball transfer portal observations, men's and women's, when we return here in the Fast Lane.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials, routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil. Even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg. And pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
What do high-performing athletes have in common? They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. The best competitors have a strong mental support system that keeps them focused, confident, and at the top of their game. Want that same support in your own life? Central Virginia Counseling can help. No matter what life throws your way, our team is here for you with 2 Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road and telehealth available anywhere in Virginia. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer bin. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer bins through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer bins, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
It's always great to save money, and no better place to save money than InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now for gift cards to Buttercup and Friends, Oliver's on Rivermont, the Caribbean Jerk Pod, and much more. Insane Radio Deals also has great experiences like Rise Up Climbing. Insane Radio Deals, so great they make you go insane. InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now before they run out. That is insaneradiodeals.com.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
John Manson from AseaRed.com making a moment for us today here in the fast lane. John, we'll get the bad news out of the way. That was Brett Decker Jr. officially announcing himself that he's entering the transfer portal. That announcement came earlier. Was that a surprise in any way, shape, or form to you? Or were you like us, where you would have been more surprised, pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless, if Decker actually was going to return to Liberty?
Yeah, no, I don't think I certainly was not surprised. I don't think anybody that's been following the Flames, in any capacity here this past season was taken aback by that news. It was just a matter of when he was going to announce it. And I think, as a Liberty fan and supporter, you kind of hold out hope that maybe he would consider returning and doing what, Zach Cleveland and Darius McGee and others have done previously and agree to come back to Liberty to finish your career there and take less money. But it seemed like all signs were pointing towards that. With Decker, leaving and going into the portal. And, you and I have joked about it before, how, the mysterious agents were always snooping around Liberty Arena throughout the season. And we had heard rumblings of that. And we've heard rumors of him getting, a $7-figure NIL deal through the portal. And I'm sure there's lots of teams that are interested in him. And who wouldn't be, a guy that, shot nearly 50% from three and a guy that has shown his ability to score at all three levels. And so not surprised in the least that he went into the portal or will go into the portal when it officially opens on April 7th. It's just a matter of time.
So you mentioned all of that. I kind of chuckle, of course, because, there was an interaction where I may or may not have been leaving our favorite spot on a post-game situation and going back to the elevator in the parking garage, and may or may not have encountered a parental figure and somebody that seemed like an agent. And I'm tucking my credential into my shirt pocket to try to make it look like I'm a student with a book bag. So that was interesting. I guess I passed it enough. But the jokes about that aside, for Liberty with this, ultimately, you mentioned that people could have probably seen this coming from a mile away. Is this oh my goodness, Liberty doesn't have what it takes to compete? Or, and I saw your mailbag question at AseaRed.com, they're still in a very strong spot in that regard. This is more just, it's a good problem to have, but you develop someone at too high of a level.
Yeah, it's just par for the course right now in mid-major and G5 level of athletics. Look around Conference USA. We put out an article today that I've already had to update once today and will continue to update in the coming days and weeks of all the portal entries so far for Conference USA. Look at Kennesaw State, the team that just won a Conference USA championship. They did that with mainly first and second year players that were recruited by their head coach, Antoine Petway. And they've now had, I think it's up to 4 guys go into the portal, including RJ Johnson. They're uber talented freshmen. This is just what happens in mid-major basketball. And I think, Liberty fans, have kind of been spoiled here a little bit, especially on the men's basketball side with, guys like Zach Cleveland and Caden Matheny and Colin Porter staying, as well as others, in previous years. But obviously this most recent senior class, what they did in staying their entire careers at Liberty, or for Caden, obviously he transferred from Bowling Green, but stayed for his last 3 years at Liberty. It's unique, and it's going to become even more and more unique and more rare for guys to do that at any level of college basketball, but particularly at the mid-major Conference USA level that Liberty finds itself in. And if you're a Liberty fan, you just have to put your trust and hope in Coach McKay and what he's done at Liberty in previous cycles, and he's shown success through the transfer portal. Looking at some of the guys he brought in, including the Caden Matheny and others like a J.J. Harper, Talon Peter, Javon Moffmer, Owen Aquino. I mean, we could go on and on. His hit rate has been at an incredibly high level of success through the portal, and that's something Liberty's going to have to do as now they've got currently 6 open roster spots for next year's team, and obviously a lot of holes to fill with those departure of those seniors as well as Decker now also.
So we'll touch on this. We have plenty of time to start looking at additions as they commit to Liberty, and then we kind of do an overview with John Manson of AseaofRed.com. I'm sure I'll have this at AseaofRed.com as well when a lot of these pieces fall into place. Am I reasonable to say that you may get a couple of bounce backs like a Ryan Jones Jr. who's from Virginia Tech, but it's not a bad idea as well to be monitoring players that maybe your Division II type players that transfer up, considering Liberty's had a very good success rate at evaluating and finding guys like that fit talent-wise and culture-wise for men's basketball.
Yeah, definitely. I certainly expect Liberty to probably bring in multiple players from, a lower level of basketball, whether that's Division II, maybe even a Division III or JUCO ranks. I mean, that's something we've seen, like you mentioned, a lot of success that Liberty's had under Coach McKay doing that, even going back to Keenan Gums back in 2019, a Division III transfer that was a key role player on that year's team that won the A-Sun and ended up winning a first-round NCAA tournament game, the only tournament win the Flames have to this point in program history. That's kind of where it started, and it's continued. I mentioned some of the other names just a moment ago, but so I think you'll definitely see some multiple, I would imagine, lower level type guys. But I think Liberty will also, look at trying to get a bounce back guy or two as well, too. Like we mentioned, I mean, you got 6 open roster spots, and that's before anybody else goes in the portal, if anybody else does, which we'll just have to wait and see. But, so that there's lots of room, and we've seen that so far. Liberty's been linked to other Division II players, at least one JUCO player, Sean Register, that I know of, 6'7" forward, that I think Liberty's been pursuing pretty heavily, and we'll just have to wait and follow him and see where he goes. But those guys are able to talk to college coaches and Division I recruiters right now, whereas the other Division I portal players, those guys don't officially go into the portal until April 7th, like I mentioned. So you're not going to hear any wind of that until after that date. Certainly not from Liberty. You might hear from some of the other programs, but anybody that you're hearing right now that Liberty's linked to is somebody coming from one of those lower levels.
The one fans have asked about, I'm sure you get it a lot at AseaofRed.com or AseaofRed on Twitter, is Zach Cleveland's brother. I'd imagine, they both are probably pretty familiar with each other if there's mutual interest. Am I off base in that, or am I connecting some real easy dots that even my 7-year-olds could do while waiting for their food at dinner?
Yeah, I mean, that's an obvious one. Noah Cleveland went into the portal. He sat out a year after finishing up his high school career at Normal, Illinois, same place, obviously, that produced Zach. And then he decided to play some Division III basketball this past season, had a really productive year. And if you go and look at his stats, it's like reading Zach Cleveland's stats at Liberty, although he did it at a lower level. Noah did Division III ranks this past season. But, I mean, he averaged double-figure points, was, close to or right around double-figure in rebounds, and also did well in assists as well, too. But somebody that doesn't necessarily shoot many three-pointers and is around a 50 to 55% free throw shooter. So it's almost the exact same stat line. And if you look at some of his highlights, he's a very similar type player as well, too, a 6'7", 6'8" forward who you can kind of run the offense through and can also play in the paint and kind of attack the rim as well, too. So I'm sure he's somebody that, Liberty's coaches have at least kicked the tires with, and you'll just have to wait and see if there is significant interest on both sides. And obviously Noah is familiar with the Liberty coaching staff and the environment and what they expect out of their players. And I'm sure Liberty's staff likewise is very familiar with Noah and the type of player he is and the family he comes from and all those things. So it certainly wouldn't be a shocker if those two continue to be linked until the younger Cleveland ends up at his next place, whether that's Liberty or somewhere else.
One women's basketball transfer before some spring football with John Manson of AseaofRed.com. We are at Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you listen to podcasts, and of course, the VTR in Sports app. John, Avery Mills entering the transfer portal. You surprised because she's an LCA Lady Bulldog, and obviously there's a connection and pipeline between LCA and LU, or is it not as surprising just given her skill set and the fact that, we've seen it before, not as many women's basketball programs are paying up for players, but there are opportunities, particularly with some of the higher end programs, including Asia Broom from last year's team at Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we all know, like, you can't be surprised by anybody going to the portal anymore. Like, I mean, you just can't. I mean, anybody that goes in, but it's to be expected. Like I said earlier, especially at the mid-major level. And but if there was somebody that I wasn't expecting to go into the portal, it would be somebody like an Avery Mills. She certainly has the talent to transfer up and maybe make a decent payday by going to a higher level. And I'm not saying that's something that she's necessarily searching after, but maybe just have the ability to play in an SEC, like you mentioned, Asia Boone, who transferred to Kentucky, or the ACC or Big Ten, just playing at that level, that stage. You only get one college career, and the path to playing professionally is a very narrow one for college basketball players, and it's probably even a little bit more narrow on the women's side than the men's side. So you got to take advantage of your 4 years that you have eligibility to play at the Division I level, and if that is for you to play at a higher level, like I said, an ACC or SEC type level, then more power to you. And I'm sure Avery will have plenty of people calling her number and trying to get her to come play for them. And it's something that Liberty women's head coach Alexis Sherrard will have to navigate through. And that's the only one that's gone in or announced their intentions to go into the portal so far on the women's side. But there's others that are very talented and on that women's team that are young that Liberty's hoping to build around for the next couple of years. And Ify Nwabi is one of the first ones that comes to mind. Emmy Stout, another one who played for high school ball with Avery Mills at LCA. If Liberty's able to hang on to those, that can be like a couple of core pieces for that program moving into next season, which is, Coach Sherrard's second year at the helm.
John Manson, AseaofRed.com, is with us in the fast lane. Pivoting over to spring football, we've heard it from Jamie Chadwell. We also heard it from new offensive coordinator, no longer offensive coordinator Newland Isaac yesterday, that in a perfect world, the Flames would have a quarterback coming out of spring practice and the, I guess we'll call it spring showcase on April 18th at 1:30 p.m. over at Williams Stadium. That's the ideal scenario. Is that wishful thinking? Is that putting it out there? What is your initial observation on the big, hairy, audacious goal in the quarterback room?
My first thought when I heard that from, first was Coach Chadwell a couple weeks back was kind of surprised, and it kind of leads you to think that Ethan Vasco may be having a tough time trying to stay relevant in this quarterback race. And obviously that's something that can change as you get deeper into spring practice. And, maybe these transfers, Deshaun Purdy and Jalen Henderson that Liberty's brought in at quarterback aren't quite to the level that the Flames coaching staff was hoping, because obviously Vasco is injured and not going through spring balls and spring practice. And if he's unable to go, then certainly he can't win the job. So if they're hopeful to get someone to win it, it'll have to be one of the other guys. But, going over there to practice and watching a few live periods, one thing, Deshaun Purdy kind of jumps off the field, if you will, as far as just his athletic build, his body, his length, his size, his athletic ability, the way the ball kind of flicks off his wrist. I mean, he looks the part of a talented, very capable quarterback. It's just a matter of can he put it all together and get it done on the field, and that's something that the coaching staff certainly looking at this spring. And Jalen Henderson, somebody else, a guy that was at Texas A&M and most recently at West Virginia, that will be able to push Purdy during spring ball, as well as Ethan Houck, the rising sophomore, technically a redshirt freshman still, only played in a couple games last season. But, I think it's probably a little bit of wishful thinking, getting back to your question there, Ed, in being able to name a quarterback. We see so frequently, and it's been no different under Coach Chadwell, that these quarterback competitions go until the week of the first game, at least publicly. And I don't know if that's just a little coaches play, trying to keep cards close to the vest and not give up any advantage to their opponent. And certainly with Liberty's season opener being against James Madison, I wouldn't be shocked if Liberty did the same thing. And maybe they internally know or have an idea who they think that starting quarterback might be, but they decide to keep that internal and not let that get leaked prior to game week, when Liberty will be taking on JMU there early September up in Harrisonburg.
John Manson from AseaofRed.com with us here in the Fast Lane. John, thank you for your insight. We'll have more time to get into spring football observations as that gets closer. We appreciate your time, though, in the Fast Lane. Excited about spring football. You got me excited, especially with your breakdown of the quarterback room. I've got some follow-up questions for next time, plus maybe some Diamond action, and, of course, the basketball roster transfer portal carousel will keep spinning.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a busy April, I'm sure, around that. But appreciate your time and talking to you, Ed.
It's our pleasure. John Manson with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, Liberty, Cinderella. Could it happen again? I think it could. Does Clark Kellogg agree? We'll ask him next here in the Fast Lane.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles. One amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Rurton Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps Casa volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Makadu for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics, the Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share it and have fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there and mark the dues.
We'll see you at the dues.
Commercial turf is your business. Supporting it is ours. At Miller Built Outdoor Equipment in Lynchburg, we're focused on professional turf equipment. Toro commercial zero turns, professional handhelds, fleet planning, and service support built for uptime. Whether you're running 2 mowers or 20, we help you build the right setup from day one. Built around your turf, Miller Built Outdoor Equipment on 12th Street in Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So, of course, we've obviously shamelessly promoted the Virginia Talk Radio Network and VTRN Sports app as your home for March Madness coverage. We've got that, but there's the TV side as well. And let's be real here. We often watch the games themselves, and somebody who has been a staple of coverage on radio at times and certainly on TV, you will see him again this coming weekend. 6:09 is the first game tipping off. 8:49 is the second for the Final Four. Clark Kellogg. We are very pleased and blessed to welcome him back into the Fast Lane. Clark, first of all, it's always a highlight of ours when March Madness comes around, expounded and built upon whenever we're able to connect, and we're fortunate once again we can do so this year.
No, always good to visit with you. There's no better time of the year than now for sports fans, and obviously I'm biased, but I think I share this with a lot of sports fans all over the world that March Madness is one of the top handful of sporting events on the calendar, and to have a seat where I've had one the last 30 years with my colleagues at CBS and Turner since 2011 is a blessing that keeps on giving, man. So we're excited about what we've got in store in Indy. Very much looking forward to the matchups and crowning a worthy champion on Monday night.
We look forward to it. The overall tournament, last year was great. 1 seeds all around. This year, you've got 2 of them in Michigan and Arizona. Is that really the feature game, or could you make a compelling case that any of these 4 teams, the other game, the earlier one, Illinois and UConn, that any 4 of them reasonably could be expected to cut down the nets?
Well, obviously, Michigan and Arizona, they've been the 2 most dominant teams all season long. I don't think anybody who's watched would deny that. They've been terrific in the tournament as well. So there's only room for one headliner when you talk about the Final Four. Both teams can't play it. Both games can't be played at the same time. One is going to get top billing in the schedule and also top billing in the minds of the public. We'd be foolish to say that Arizona, Michigan isn't the more tantalizing. Getting to the Final Four is a terrific accomplishment for whoever gets there. So thrilled to see Illinois back under Brad Underwood. They were last there in 2005. And certainly UConn has won back-to-back titles here recently, and this is the 3rd Final Four trip for Danny Hurley and his crew in the last 4 years. So great stories across the board, but top billing on the marquee in terms of what it looks like on paper as far as a matchup. You've got to be thinking the Arizona-Michigan game, which is the second one of the night.
So there's an interesting local angle to that because both coaches, Michigan's Dusty May. Wow, I can't believe I blinked on the name. And then Tommy Lloyd.
It can happen sometimes, Ed. No problem. I blank on names too.
Glad to know I'm not the only one. And then Tommy Lloyd for Arizona. The local angle is both of them, their name has come up with the North Carolina head coaching job. Both of them have deflected it. And Carolina's gone on, and people have speculated that maybe Billy Donovan would be in the mix for that as well. What level of intrigue does that angle add for you the same way that it does for us here in ACC country?
I try to stay clear of the coaching carousel. I mean, there's so many layers to it. Obviously, North Carolina, a great program, and I was sorry to see Hubert Davis not get another year. Clearly, there were some rumblings over the last handful of years. There were also some really good moments. Again, I thought he was deserving of another year. The decision makers felt otherwise. Sometimes the noise of the internet and the alumni base can be distracting and sometimes gets to the point where it rises to the level of influence. I'm not saying that's the case here with the athletic director at North Carolina, Bubba Cunningham, and then we've got a new athletic director stepping in. So I'm always leery of wading too deep into the coaching carousel because I'm not close enough to the ground as it relates to these situations. I have an opinion from afar, a feeling from afar. So I'm anxious to see where it lands and who ends up taking that job. I think it's a great opportunity for whoever's going to be the next coach there. Obviously, there's plenty on the plate of Tommy Lloyd and Dusty May to where they would be deflecting any overtures. I think both are in great spots. But again, you never know how people are thinking about their careers and opportunities. So we'll see where it lands.
Arizona's a team that's won. They've got a lot of NBA talent. Michigan has some as well, but Michigan also has been a team maybe a little more versatile in terms of how they can score to beat you. How even do you expect the Michigan-Arizona matchup to play out?
Well, I'm anticipating, both of those teams have very few weaknesses. When you start looking at the ingredients that they present, size, speed, athleticism, skill level, Michigan's a little more proficient and dangerous from the three-point line. But most teams are compared to Arizona because they are judicious with their three-point attempts. Yet they shoot a relatively good percentage, so they're capable. They just choose to play smash mouth basketball at both ends. They want you to feel them. On the defensive end, they want to get their bodies into you. Offensively, they want to beat you up in the paint and at the free throw line and on the glass. And Michigan can do that. They're a little more high octane, I would say, in transition, but I think it has all the makings of a terrific matchup with several future NBA and pro players on the floor. I just hope the players are healthy and play close to their best level on both sides, because if that happens, then we all win.
The first matchup that Clark will be a part of for TBS's coverage of the Final Four, 6:09 p.m. tip-off this coming Saturday, Illinois and UConn. I don't mean this in a loaded question way, although you could take it that way. Is the ultimate wild card in the even matchup between Illinois and UConn the Dan Hurley element, not just the fire with which he coaches, but also the fact that he's the one coach in this Final Four who has won an NCAA tournament and he's got multiple championships?
Yeah, that's valuable. I mean, you can't dismiss that kind of experience and that kind of resume. He also has a player in Alex Karaban who's won 2 championships, and that's extremely valuable from the standpoint of knowing the lay of the land, what it requires, what it takes, familiarity with routine and the like. So clearly, I think that's a plus. How much of a plus? Open to debate. But it's certainly something you would rather have than not have. Then you look at the personnel of the rosters, and Illinois is as big a team as we have in the country, versatile, deep, playing the best defense I think it's played all season to go with. Really kind of smash mouth, 3-point shooting offense too. I mean, they beat you up on the glass because they get so many opportunities with second chance rebounds. And they also have a point guard in Keaton Wagler who's been terrific. And David Merkovich has been a matchup problem for everybody they've played. He's physical, he's skilled, he's versatile. They can run offense through him. So, and Andrei Stojakovic has been one of the outstanding players in the tournament thus far. So, intriguing, great potential games on both sides of this Final Four bracket.
There is the Dan Hurley element and the passion with which he coaches. It's gotten some local attention because, after the big shot from Braden Mullins against Duke to give the Huskies that 73-72 win, Roger Ayers, who's from Virginia, about an hour from our Virginia Talk Radio Network studios in Roanoke.
One of the finest.
He is, and he's not in this year's Final Four, although he's been in many of them. What do you make of that interaction where Hurley got close to Ayers, but Ayers also seems like the personality who it's never really bothered him when coaches coach with fire?
Yeah, that's part of the job, I think, as an official. It's obviously it's a combination of skill, art, and science. The science is the mechanics, and the skill with which you officiate games. The art is how you deal with players and situations and coaches. And most of the high-level officials, and Roger Ayers is clearly one of those, has been for a long time, handle personalities and the dynamics of dealing with personalities a little differently. I think he's always been really good in that compartment of officiating. So I didn't see the situation you're speaking of. I haven't, honed in on it, but just in a general sense, the officials know who's on the sidelines. They know what their annex and tendencies are, and I think they come prepared to deal with that in a way that hopefully doesn't take away from the game, and in most cases it doesn't.
Clark Kellogg is with us in the Fast Lane. You've seen him on CBS. He'll be with TBS this weekend as they have the Final Four. 6:09 is when the game tips off between Illinois and UConn. Michigan and Arizona will follow that one. There are some intriguing elements of who's not in the Final Four this year. One is the ACC. They were there last year with Duke. I'm sure they'll be back in the future. Duke, maybe other schools as well. Is the ACC in a better state as a conference overall from what you saw in the regular season and the tournament, even though they are not represented in the Final Four that you'll be covering for TBS?
Yeah, I think so in general. I mean, it was a much better year in terms of representation in the tournament from last year. I think they doubled their number of entrants from 4 to 8, if I'm not mistaken. They showed well. I mean, you've got a couple of new coaches. Ryan Odom at Virginia, who's had great success wherever he's been. That bodes well because he's relatively young in his career, a lot of runway in front of him. I thought Jay Lucas was one of the outstanding first-year coaches in a new place, doing a nice job in Miami. I don't see why that doesn't continue because of his energy, his acumen, his ability to recruit, and what he's proven in year one as a head coach. And then across the board, I think Louisville is going to be in the mix. You got Brad. Yeah, I think the league is in good stead, in good shape. You'll have a new coach at North Carolina State. Obviously, you'll have a new coach at North Carolina. So yeah, I think the league is in good shape going forward. I really do.
The other element that was missing in last year's Final Four, all of them were 1 seeds, and it's in this year's. We got 2 1s, a 2, and a 3. Is the idea of Cinderella being this deep in the tournament? Is Cinderella done in March Madness, or is it more that you may get some upsets like we got this year? VCU in our backyard, Siena almost beat Duke, but it will be harder for them to make the deeper runs because of the depth of talent that's gone to the portal.
Well, I mean, if you look at it historically, we haven't had a ton of non-power conference teams make runs. I mean, we've had periods where it's happened or years where it's happened, but it hasn't been that overwhelming. As far as getting beyond the Elite Eight, those numbers are relatively small historically, and I don't think that changes. I think you'll still see double-digit seeds occasionally. I mean, we had NC State make a run as an 11 seed. Just a couple of years ago, I mean, coming from the ACC, is that Cinderella? I think it's all in how you frame it. I think teams that are surprises, whether they're from mid-majors or power conferences, Iowa certainly could fit that bill in terms of exceeding expectations from where they got to based on and where they started at the beginning of the tournament. So I think we're always going to have some of that. I don't think that's going away. Some years it'll be more. Other years it'll be less. I don't think we've got enough data to say the trend of that there's a trend starting where mid-majors aren't going to be a significant part of March Madness.
It's a very measured approach from Clark Kellogg. You'll get more of his analysis on TBS this weekend. You've seen him on CBS as well. Clark, we'll wrap it up on this one because, you know, Tom Izzo spoke out during the NCAA tournament about this. We've had some women's coaches as well. Dawn Staley, Kara Lawson, and others have spoken out about this. You're a parent of 3 that have been Division I caliber athletes. Your daughter Talissa in volleyball, and then Nick and Alex as well when it came to basketball. What's your assessment as a former Division I player yourself who went to the NBA, as the parent of Division I players as well, the desire for some of these coaches to maybe still keep some of the hard edge coaching with the fact that you do have to modernize that with the times?
Well, I think you want your kids to be coached in a way where they're going to develop and be prepared for not only their sport, but for life after their sport. And there are different styles and ways of coaching, much like there are of parenting. But I think the core fundamentals of coaching and parenting have to be in place. Caring for those that are entrusted to your leadership, being motivated by helping to help them become the best they can be, and putting them in situations where they're going to be forced to develop in a real life way. And that means there's going to be some intensity, there's going to be some accountability. The style is a matter of personal preference for me, Ed. And that becomes a personal choice for student athletes. I mean, there are enough good coaches out there across all sports that do it in different ways. Some kids enjoy the more intense, in-your-face type of coaching style. Others would much rather would prefer a different style. So I don't necessarily think the styles are really the driver. I think what is at the core of what's being done to help that student athlete develop holistically. And then it becomes a matter of how you choose where you're going to land based on the style you most thrive in. I like all dimensions of coaches that are about the people they're coaching and that are helping them get better. Now, would I choose a certain style of coach? Maybe not, but I don't have any problem with the various styles of coaching that get the kind of results that you like to see produced in young student athletes.
We are grateful, Clark, for that just very measured and very perspective-based approach that you've been generous enough to share with us today in the Fast Lane. thank you again for your time. We hope we didn't keep you too long. It is always a highlight of ours when we're able to connect with you during the NCAA tournament. And as you remind us every year, the tournament always delivers.
That's exactly right. Ed. Great to be with you. Always enjoy the conversation and enjoy our last 3 games of the college basketball season, both on the men's and women's side.
Indeed. We look forward to it as well. Clark Kellogg with us here to wrap up the Fast Lane. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, if you missed anything, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.
Is Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. A Florida judge granted Tiger Woods' request to travel outside the U.S. and enter a comprehensive inpatient treatment facility one day after the 15-time golf major champion said he's stepping away for a period of time to seek treatment and focus on his health. Yesterday, Woods entered a not guilty plea to charges connected to last week's rollover crash in Florida. Baseball, a bounce back for Paul Skeens. 6 days after a rough opening day.